Hello and welcome to our discussion on the small and large intestines. This will be the last lecture for this unit for my class. And so you're going to learn about the small and large intestine, kind of the final stops for your food before it exits your body. So your small intestine is the organ that follows the stomach. So it's a tubular organ. It extends from the pyloric sphincter. So remember that is the bottom sphincter of your stomach. Down the pyloric region, and then it goes all the way to the large intestine. Your small intestine is approximately 6 meters in length, which is equivalent to 19 feet for those that aren't good at metrics. Functions. One, it receives the product of digestion. So it receives everything that you've digested from the stomach. Most of your absorption of nutrients happens here. So most of your absorption of nutrients is going to happen in the small intestine. The rest of it, the stuff that's not absorbed, will be transported and carried to the large intestine where it will then leave your body. There are 4 parts to your small intestine. So 4 is kind of the magic number. 4 lobes the liver, 4 regions of the stomach, 4 parts of the small intestine. 4 layers of the alimentary canal as well. But 4 parts of the small intestine. The first one's called the duodenum. This is the short part. We talked about the pancreas yesterday in the last section. I said the duodenum is kind of a C-shaped structure that kind of wraps around the pancreas. This is the shortest part of your small intestine. It's the first part. So right after it leaves the stomach, it goes to here. This is where bile, which comes from your liver and gallbladder, along with your pancreatic juices, enter your digestive tract is into the duodenum. So the bile duct and the pancreatic duct enter there, along with all the enzymes and materials that they secrete and carry. Following your duodenum is a segment known as the jejunum. This makes up 2/3 of your intestines. So this is the largest segment, is your jejunum. And then the last portion is called the ileum, which is the distal region of the small intestine. It's hard to distinguish between your jejunum and your ileum, but as you progress, your wall gets thinner, or the tube gets thinner than as it goes along. So it's a thinner wall than your jejunum is kind of your distinction. And then this is all. So those are the 4 parts of the tube, and then connecting that tube to the rest of your organs and your insides is called your mesentery. So this mesentery suspends your small intestine and keeps it off of your abdominal wall. So the mesentery itself is the connective tissue that covers your small intestine. It has blood vessels known as such as your mesenteric artery and vein, which takes blood to and from your mesentery. Also has nerves associated with it and has fat there as well. So this is the mesentery. Here's a look at your small intestine. As it comes off the stomach, you get this first segment, which is known as your duodenum. Off the stomach here, your duodenum is the C-shaped structure. And then you get your jejunum, which wraps back and forth and around. And then the last little bit is called your ileum, which will then go to your large intestine. Here you see you have a liver and you have a stomach, and then you have this structure which is known as the greater omentum. This is, the greater omentum is a covering that protects your intestines from the outside of the body. It kind of is a friction layer, reduces friction, suspends everything, insulation layer as well. That's your greater omentum. Structure-wise, your small intestine has a bunch of these tiny little finger-like projections called microvilli. They have the same function as cilia, as folds do. The whole point is to increase surface area, which increases absorption. And then the passageway for your small intestine is called the lumen. And this is where food actually travels. But you'll notice that you have arteries and veins flowing in here. This is where your absorption takes place. It goes directly to those blood vessels. And this is a single layer of simple, I believe, simple columnar cells, which is, there's a microvilli, and that's what absorbs those nutrients. Here's another look at the small intestine with the wall. In here you see this is your lumen, which is the region where all the food goes. Your microvilli extend out into that. So these all extend up, which increase your surface area. And then they connect to blood vessels and cells within the structure itself, within the wall of your small intestine, to transport those elsewhere. Over here is an animated diagram of a microvilli. These are all sticking out. This is your small intestine, which has your cell membrane, your mitochondria, everything is here. This would be one of those simple cells that extend out. After your small intestine, you have your large intestine. This is much shorter, so it's large. We call it the large because it's much bigger in diameter. But it's only 1.5 meters in length, or 5.5 feet, as opposed to 9 feet. Or 19 feet, my apologies. So your small intestine absorbs nutrients and minerals. Your large intestine absorbs water. So this is where you absorb and take up water into your body so you don't dehydrate. And then the remaining part of the chyme that travels down forms your feces. There's a couple parts to your large intestine. The first, notably, is your cecum. This is the first segment which connects your small and large intestine. This is where your appendix attaches to. So some of you may have had your appendix removed. Recently, it came to be determined that the appendix has some sort of immune function to the body. It is not a large player in the immune system. And so those of you that have had it removed are not more susceptible to disease or anything like that. But the reason you would get it removed is because it becomes inflamed or infected, which then causes issues. One, it hurts. Two, there are different enzymes within your appendix that, if it bursts, will get into your large intestine and into your body in general, which will cause issues. But this is your large intestine. Another name for your large intestine is the colon. So there are 4 segments. Again, our magic number 4. So you have an ascending colon, a transverse colon, a descending colon, and a sigmoid colon. And those are all just describing your large intestine. So ascending goes up from your cecum. So I'll show you a picture here in a second. So your cecum is near your pelvic region, and your ascending colon travels up from there. It goes to your transverse colon, which runs across, or transverse, so from right to left on your body. The descending runs down, descends, back towards your pelvic region. And then your sigmoid, I don't know what sigmoid means. It starts with an S and it's got an S shape. This connects your colon to your rectum. So your colon, or your large intestine, or your colon, looks like this. Your ileum ends here. This is your cecum, which is your first segment. Again, this is your appendix coming up to attach to your cecum, which is this segment. This then goes to your ascending colon, across to your transverse, down to your descending. And this last little S-shaped region here is your sigmoid colon. So that whole region is your sigmoid colon, which runs down into, this whole region is your sigmoid colon, which runs down into your rectum and then eventually out your anal canal. Your large intestine ends at the rectum, and this is where feces is stored prior to being excreted from the body. And your anal canal is the last 2.5 to 4 centimeters of the large intestine. So it's all one continuous segment. We should have different names for it. But this is where feces is expelled from the body. It's where you get rid of things that you're not going to use and are just taking up space within your body. And they leave your body through your anus. Your anus is sealed by a sphincter at the end of your digestive system. There are actually 2 of them that make up your anus. You have an internal and an external. The internal one is composed of smooth muscle, which means you have no control over it. It's an involuntary muscle that functions as a reflex to feces being there. Your external is skeletal muscle, and this is the one that you have control over. and you have the ability to contract and keep things inside of you or relax and let things out. But that is your external sphincter there. And those are the two sphincters that make up your large intestine. Again, this is just like the rest of your alimentary canal. There are 4 layers that make up your large intestine. One, the inside layer is your mucus, which has a lining. Your submucosas after that, which is your connective tissue. Your muscular, this is what performs the contraction. So if your internal anal sphincter contracts, that's your muscular layer there. And then you have your serous membrane, which prevents friction from the outside the rest of the body. Again, your large intestine has very little digestive function. Most of that's with your small intestine. It absorbs some nutrients, but most have already been taken care of in your small intestine. This can't be starred enough. Your major function is to absorb water and electrolytes. This prevents your body from expelling excess water. So about 90% of the water in chyme is reabsorbed, and this takes place here. So imagine if you're only left with 10% of the chyme you started with, think of if you had the other 90% and how fantastic that would be to deal with. So your body takes care of that and replaces and puts the water back into your system so it can be reused and recycled, which is, our bodies are pretty good at that. But this is your large intestine. A couple last things. You have one, intestinal gas. So when you experience flatulence, this is due to bacteria, which is breaking down your fecal matter into your vitamins that we can use. So in things like vitamin K and vitamin B that our bodies can retake up and utilize. And so the things that we excrete are the byproducts of this process. And then your feces as a whole is comprised of undigested chyme, water as well, and then your color varies based on your bile color and how that interacts with your bacteria. So bacteria interact with the chyme itself and then also the bacteria that are breaking the chyme down, and that's what changes the color of your feces. Little known fact. Some troubles, some things that we can experience with the large intestine. One, you can have diarrhea. This is where we lose feces before water can be absorbed, and that's why your diarrhea is the way it is. It's got excess water, so we're losing the feces before we can absorb the water from it. On the flip side, you can have constipation, where feces passes through your large intestine too slowly, and you absorb excess water. And so water is absorbed in excess, making your feces very hard and hard to get rid of. I'm going to have you guys look up diverticulitis and irritable bowel syndrome. And you can kind of get your information from the internet on those. And then we talked a little bit about hemorrhoids. So hemo refers to blood, roids refers to an inflammation or blockage. So this is where your rectal veins become inflamed, which causes pain, itching, and bleeding. If you end up with blood in your stool, and the color of it depends on, it can come from a couple different places. One, if you have black blood in your stool, as likely came from your upper digestive tract. So this can be your small intestine or your stomach. Might have damage or an ulcer, which leaks blood into your chyme, which then is in your stool. If it is red, meaning it hasn't solidified yet, it's likely in your lower digestive tract from a torn blood vessel in your rectum, anus, or the last couple segments of your large intestine. And that's what distinguishes the color of your blood, if it ends up in your stool, is where it came from. Here are some digestive questions, or some review questions, for you to look through in regards to the large intestine. And so if you want to pause the video, you can answer those. Otherwise, this wraps up our unit on the digestive system. So we'll do a little bit of review, and then I'll have a chance for you to show what you know and answer some questions of mine here in the near future. Let me know if you have questions, and thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.